All right. It is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the Scappoose Planning Commission meeting to order for Thursday, August 26th. Before we start the meeting, everybody speak into the mic so it's a good record. Before we start the meeting, I would like to inform everyone that all meetings are live and recorded through YouTube. Please make sure, unless you are speaking, that your device is muted. Thank you. Okay, roll call. Commissioners, would you state your name?
Start over here. Commissioner Blank.
Commissioner Jensen.
Commissioner Connell.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Commissioner Santiago.
I believe that makes a quorum, so we will proceed. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those? Are there any comments or corrections?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion that they be approved as presented.
Minutes for March 25 and May 13.
Yeah.
Is there
Second.
Okay, great. It's been moved and seconded that the March 25th and May 13th meeting minutes be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that passes. So this is citizen input, and this would be for anything not on the agenda, correct? Would any citizen like to offer input on anything not in the agenda? Thank you. Then we can move on to new business. Docket SB1-20. And let me go straight to hearing, right? All right. So I'm calling this public, I'm going to call the meeting to order here, or the hearing. I'm calling this public meeting in order to consider an application for preliminary subdivision plat approval. The evidence must address the criteria that apply to the decision as described in the staff report, or to the criteria the person testifying believes to apply to that decision. Limited land use decisions do not take verbal public testimony because they do not require interpretation or the exercise of policy or legal judgment. Any written comments shall be included in the record. Only the staff, the applicant, and the Planning Commission will have an opportunity to speak. Does any Planning Commission member wish to declare any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest regarding this matter?
No.
All right. Does any party wish to challenge any commissioner's impartiality or legal capacity to participate in this matter? All right. The order of the hearing will be the staff report, then the applicant's presentation, and a staff response. Thereafter, the hearing will be closed for consideration of the matter by the commission. The decision of the Planning Commission can be appealed to the City Council. And with that,
Do you want to read the docket description?
yeah, I can go through. So docket SB1-20, Westlake Consultants is requesting approval of a preliminary subdivision plat to subdivide approximately 5.7 acres of land described as Columbia County Assessor Map numbers 3213 CD 04502 and 3213 CD 04500 and 3213 CD 0450 to create 33 lots in the moderate density residential R4 zoning district. Site is located southwest of the Southwest Callahan and Southwest Old Portland Road intersection. Need to go through the limited land use statement again?
No, that's okay.
Okay, then I believe it is time for the staff report.
Perfect. One correction I wanted to make, there was a one missing from that last map number. It's 3213 CD 04501. It just got missed. Just to clarify.
Thank you for the correction.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here this evening. I will go over the observations first, and then we'll run through the public comments that were received this week. Then I'll direct you to the applicable approval criteria. We'll run through staff's recommendation, and I'll point you to the conditions of approval. After that, I'll turn it back over to you. So beginning on the top of page 20, and when I reference page numbers, it will be the blue numbers at the bottom right of the pages. Beginning with the subject site. Again, the subject site consists of 5.7 acres. This is located in the southwestern portion of the city. The site is bordered to the west and south by large home sites within Columbia County outside of the city's urban growth boundary. With one exception, there is an existing house at the northeast corner just south of the subject property that is in city limits and also zoned R4. To the east, the property is adjacent to Southwest Old Portland Road, and to the north by Southwest Callahan Road, and beyond that, Dutch Canyon Estates, phases 1 and 2. Adjacent zoning is R4 to the north and east, and Columbia County RR5 rural residential to the south and west.
Hello.
Hello, Rita. We can hear
Hello.
you.
Can you? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we can hear you. If you'd like to mute yourself, we'll go ahead and continue.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what number to push to mute.
You know,
The same as unmute? Did you
I'm
hear
just on
that?
the phone. I'm just on the phone. I'm not on
okay.
the tablet.
We wanted to have you try *6.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, that worked. And then if you want to unmute, I believe you just do that same thing when you're ready to talk. Okay. Okay, so back to subject site. The property consists of 3 legal lots of record. There is one of the lots, which is tax lot 4500. It does contain an existing single-family home and several outbuildings. The remainder of the lots are vacant. The existing house is proposed to remain as a part of the subdivision. The property is not within the floodplain, nor does it contain any wetlands. Under background information, in 2007, the Planning Commission approved Dutch Canyon Estates Phase 1, which was a 42-lot subdivision. After that, in 2013, the Planning Commission approved Dutch Canyon Estates Phase 2, a 43-lot subdivision. And lastly, in 2015, Dutch Canyon Estates 3 was approved, which is a 35-lot subdivision. All 3 previous phases are fully built out. Under proposed subdivision, street system, and right-of-way dedication, again, the applicant requests approval of this application to subdivide 5.7 acres into 33 single-family residential lots. The sizes of the lots range from 5,014 square feet to 14,211 square feet. That large lot is the one that the existing home would remain on. The site is located south of Callahan and west of Old Portland Road. The lots would have frontage on 4 public streets. Those would be Southwest Klompen Street and Southwest Amsterdam Lane, which would be extended south through the subdivision. There's also a cul-de-sac street, which is depicted as Southwest Court A. It would serve 13 of the lots, and then 9 of the lots would front on Southwest Callahan Road. As part of a previous minor partition that was approved in 2013, the owner already dedicated the necessary right-of-way for frontage improvements on Callahan Road and Old Portland Road. So no further right-of-way dedication on those frontages is required as part of this application. Under traffic impact analysis and street improvements, the applicant is proposing interior street right-of-way widths of 54 feet. That's consistent with the city's transportation system plan for local residential streets. All new streets within the subdivision would be improved to meet the city's local street standards. That includes 32 feet of paving with curb and gutter, 5-foot sidewalks, and street trees. Access to the subdivision is via Southwest Callahan Road, which is under the jurisdiction of Columbia County. Columbia County Public Works did submit a referral comment that's attached as Exhibit 11. They did state that the applicant is required to meet the city of Scappoose's standards for street improvements and storm drainage. They are also requiring that the applicant apply for an access permit for those new driveways and for the new right-of-way that will abut Callahan. That is included in conditions of approval 13 and 15. The applicant will be required to perform half-street improvements to Callahan and Old Portland Road. Callahan Road is designated as a neighborhood route in the transportation system plan. And Old Portland Road is designated as a collector, which is the 2-lane without parking option. Both require a 60-foot right-of-way width and a paved width of 36 feet. The applicant submitted a transportation impact study, which was completed by Lancaster Mobley. It's attached as Exhibit 6. The study estimated that the proposed development of 33 lots would generate 302 weekday trips, 23 of which would be during the morning peak hour and 32 would be during the evening peak hour. Safety and capacity level of analysis, level of service analysis was also completed for 6 nearby affected intersections. All 4 intersections under the city and/or county's jurisdiction are expected to meet the operational standards established in the city's and county's TSPs. 2 intersections are under ODOT's jurisdiction. That's the Havlick Drive and Highway 30 intersection and the Johnson Landing Road / Bonneville Drive and Highway 30 intersections. Havlick Drive is projected to meet the alternative mobility standards, which were adopted by the Oregon Transportation Commission. And that's during the build-out year 2022. That is addressed in the TIS addendum, which is included as Exhibit 7. The Bonneville Drive, Johnson's Landing Road, and Highway 30 intersection is not signalized. Therefore, the alternative mobility standards were not addressed or adopted for that intersection. Currently, and at the 2022 build-out year, that intersection does not meet ODOT's adopted standards. ODOT is aware of that. ODOT would typically not review subdivision impacts since the development does not directly front Highway 30 and the use is outright permitted. It's not a zone change or anything like that. Still, the city did ask for their comments. They did submit those in an email, which is attached as Exhibit 13. ODOT reviewed the transportation impact study and stated they did not have any comments on the mitigation or analysis. And then I have a note here that this is similar to when ODOT reviewed the comments or the TIS related to Phase 3 of Dutch Canyon Estates. Their comment at that time, again, was that no feasible mitigation is recommended at that time. And again, these 2 intersections are under ODOT's jurisdiction, so the city really can't stipulate improvements to those intersections unless ODOT were to request it and allow it. Under public utility improvements, municipal water is available in Southwest Callahan Road. The applicant proposes to extend the water system throughout the development via an 8-inch main line. Additionally, the applicant has depicted the extension of the water main along the project frontage within Southwest Callahan. Likewise, sanitary sewers available and a main line within the Southwest Callahan Road right-of-way. The applicant does propose to extend the sewer main lines throughout the development. The applicant then would also provide an extension of sanitary sewer within Callahan Road. So you'll see on Exhibit 3I, which is the utility exhibit, that there are grade changes, which does require that individual sanitary sewer pumps be installed on lots 29 through 33. That would be within a 7-foot wide private sanitary sewer easement. And then that would connect those properties to the sanitary sewer main line. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because probably Chris or the applicant will. I will just say that the applicant proposes that stormwater from this development be collected and conveyed through new stormwater lines within Southwest Callahan Road to a retrofitted stormwater quality treatment facility, which is located on the north side of Callahan, adjacent to Old Portland Road. That facility was constructed as part of Dutch Canyon Estates Phase 1. It does have known issues and deficiencies, and so this could be a win-win for the applicant and that HOA. There was a list here of what would be retrofitted. I'll let that be presented a little bit later. The Dutch Canyon Estates HOA 1 HOA owns Tract A, which is where this stormwater quality facility is located. The board would have to approve this concept in order for it to be used in that manner. The board has met. They did submit a comment. It's attached as Exhibit 14. And as stated in the comment, the board does approve the concept of routing stormwater from Dutch Canyon Phase 4 to the Phase 1 stormwater facility, provided that these two HOAs are joined, which would then make collection of the HOA fees related to maintenance much easier for them to manage. As a second option, in the event that the board does not approve of the use or there's an agreement that cannot be reached, the applicant does propose an on-site stormwater facility within Lot 33. That can be seen in Exhibit 3T. Again, if a stormwater facility is placed on Lot 33, that would no longer be a buildable lot. It would become a stormwater tract. And I guess the other thing to mention is then the retrofitting of that existing facility would not be completed as a part of this project. Under street trees and landscaping, the Scappoose Development Code does require that street trees be provided along all street frontages. The applicant has submitted a preliminary street tree planting plan that's attached as Exhibit 3G. Under public and private agencies and public notice, all required noticing was provided for this application. Exhibits 9 through 15 include agency comments or affected comments. If an issue was applicable to the Planning Commission, it was included again in the recommended conditions of approval. We did get, there were no public comments submitted at the time the staff report was written. However, we did receive 2 public comments this week. So you should have those printed out before you. And then if you want to pull open the preliminary plat, which is page 72 of your packet, I'll just point out where these properties are located so you can have a good understanding. The first letter was submitted by Linda Holzheimer. Her property is located south of, on the west, south of lot 11, on the east, south of lot 23, kind of spans that region. You can sort of see the lot lines. I'm going to go to the second page in that packet of comments, which is the staff response memo. And this is the response to Linda Holzheimer's concerns. I'm just going to run through this. These memos are included as additional findings to this application. So number one, an issue is raised about setbacks. They request that proper setbacks be maintained for contiguous properties. Staff response, the subject property is zoned R4. That does govern the setbacks. And so once this subdivision is recorded and platted, any future building on those lots would have to comply with those setbacks. Number two, privacy mitigation. We request the developer install and maintain a privacy fence at a minimum height of 6 foot based on the location of the proposed road into the development and existing properties. Main concern is mitigation of increased noise, traffic, and light pollution. Staff response, there's no development code requirement that fencing be provided between two similar uses, which is residential to residential here. That being said, the developer could voluntarily offer, but the city can't require it because I don't have a condition or a criteria to tie it to. Number three, traffic impact studies. Were traffic impact studies completed? How many cars or trips per day will the new development generate? Did the study results address the increased traffic control mitigation on Dutch Canyon Road and Old Portland Road? Our staff response, again, yes, there was a traffic impact study completed that is required for subdivisions. It's attached as Exhibit 6 to the staff report. As I previously mentioned, the TIS estimates that the development would generate a total of 302 weekday trips. There was no mitigation on Dutch Canyon Road or Old Portland Road since those area intersections under the city and county's jurisdiction are operating within acceptable standards. Also, our transportation system plan did account for this property developing at R4 densities. Therefore, it is in compliance with what was already assumed to occur there. One thing I did include just for the writer's benefit, if there are existing conditions on those roads that are a problem, speeding, what have you, there is a traffic complaint form that can be filled out. I've provided the link here. These comments then are directed to the Traffic Safety Committee to review and address. So that's a normal course of action for any current issues. Number 4, stormwater runoff. Where's the placement of the required stormwater runoff reservoir going to be located? It's not clear on the plat map. We strongly request the proposed location not create a vector problem or future development issues for contiguous properties. Again, we discussed this a moment ago. The idea is to use the existing stormwater facility north of the site. And then again, if they cannot do that, lot 33 would be utilized. That is at the corner of Old Portland Road and Callahan. We wouldn't then assume that there would be any issue with future development or a vector problem. Also, this is the low point of the property, and so that would be the ideal location for the stormwater facility. Number 5, proposed future road. On the plat map, there's reference to several potential future streets that appear to run through my property. As I understand, my property is unincorporated Columbia County, not within city limits of Scappoose. As such, zoning regulations as they currently exist would not allow for street development as noted on the plat map. That is correct. Linda Holzheimer's property is outside city limits and the UGB. But the Scappoose Development Code does require applicants for a subdivision plat to provide neighborhood circulation plans. This conceptualizes future street plans and lot patterns to parcels within 500 feet of the subject site. So the circulation plan is included as Exhibit 3F. You can see it on page 73. The circulation plan is completely conceptual in nature. It does not approve the construction of those roads. That's why it says potential future streets. The shadow plat of the potential streets and lots would not be permitted at this time under Columbia County zoning, but would be allowed at some point in the future if and when the property was brought into the UGB and city limits. However, we obviously try to plan for good circulation in the future, which is why we are showing that and why the applicant is providing those future street connections. This would be a logical area to bring into the UGB in the future. It is contiguous with the current UGB and city limits. Also, it would be able to be served with utilities since city utilities already exist in close proximity, so the cost to extend would be more reasonable. And then I just have a note here to be clear, there are no plans at this time to add this area to the UGB. It's just that it's very likely to be looked at during the next UGB expansion. So the next comment we received was from Neil and Kathy McNeil. And if you want to look at your preliminary plat again, your property is located south of lots 29 through 33. So they are directly abutting. I'm going to go to the staff memo, staff response memo, which is the last page in that packet. So let's see here. The first concern of the McNeils, we would like special attention paid to how the property will manage water drainage. In large rain events, we have had water overflow the drainage ditch on the corner of Callahan and Old Portland, travel across the corner of this property and continue onto our property. One time we had enough water that it flowed across our driveway. I see Exhibit B addresses a water quality infiltration facility alternative, which I would like you to seriously consider. It looks like this would make lot 33 unbuildable. I know the developer will not want to lose a buildable lot, but I think this project warrants serious consideration of where water is going to drain. Again, similar concern and comment. This obviously indicates that that existing facility is having issues with how it operates, which is a known issue. Again, there would either be a retrofit of that existing facility to make it function properly, or lot 33 would be lost as a buildable lot and would become a stormwater tract. The next issue that was raised says, I would also like the Planning Commission to consider the impact of another subdivision feeding into Old Portland Road. The traffic on this road has increased dramatically in recent years. Many people use it like a bypass to Highway 30 and drive way over the posted speed limit. I would like to see speed bumps or some sort of a roundabout considered for somewhere along Old Portland Road to slow the traffic down, and maybe a traffic light at the intersection of Old Portland and Hablick. Staff's comment is on the back. Again, the applicant did complete a traffic impact study attached as Exhibit 6. It did not indicate any needed mitigation since the area intersections are operating within acceptable standards. The TSP assumed the subject property would develop with residential uses at the density allowed by the R4 zoning district. So the impacts of development of this property are in conformance with the TSP. I've again cited the traffic complaint form for these existing traffic complaints and issues. And then again, I've just included a note here that traffic lights and signals cannot just be added. They have to meet very specific warrants. That was analyzed in the TIS. And as stated on page 4 of the TIS, due to insufficient side street traffic volumes, traffic signal warrants are not projected to be met at any of the unsignalized intersections under any of the analysis scenarios. And then the last concern, finally, we are concerned about what will happen to the large white fir trees that are along our property line that abut the proposed subdivision. We appreciate and enjoy the buffer they give us to all the traffic and housing that has surrounded us in recent years, and do not want to lose them. If fences are being considered, we would like to know what kind and how tall they would be. We do not want these trees cut, and we believe they are on our property for the most part. Staff response, we're not aware of any plans to remove these trees. along the property line. They would be in the backyards of the new residences. We don't see that there would be a need to remove them. Again, there's no development code requiring fencing, so the city is not aware of what the applicant's plan is to do there, and the applicant would need to respond directly to the McNeils regarding the question. The applicant is aware that these comments were submitted. They have seen staff's response to these as well. When I send for limited land use decisions, any comments submitted, those individuals will receive a copy of the notice of decision. I've also included our staff response in those mailings. Okay, so let's see here. The criteria for approval and findings for the R4 zone are contained in Chapter 17.50. Those findings are found on pages 24 and 25. The criteria for approval for street trees are contained in Chapter 17.104. Those findings are on pages 25 and 26. The subdivision criteria of approval are contained in Chapter 17.150. Those findings are found on pages 26 through 28. The street and utility improvement standards are contained in Chapter 17.154. Those findings are found on pages 28 through 36. And if you want to turn to page 37 of your packet, '37 contains staff's recommendation in the beginning of the conditions of approval. The conditions are found on pages 37 through 42. Based on the findings of fact and the materials submitted by the applicant, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve docket SB 1-20. That would be including the 32 conditions of approval. These conditions are very standard for a subdivision. Most of them are fairly boilerplate. They address conformance with the Public Works design standards, with the also with the development code, and then any requirements by those agencies that submitted comments. And then occasionally more specific to the development, we would have some additional conditions. The applicant has reviewed the conditions of approval already, and that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions, or you could turn it over to the applicant.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay, I'm sure we'll come back to you.
Yep.
The applicant like to make their presentation.
It should be on if you want to.
Can sandblast?
Okay, just a sec. Stand by.
Good evening. My name is Ken Sandblast. I work with the Westlake Consultants. I'm Director of Land Use Planning. My mailing address is 15115 Southwest Sequoia Parkway, Suite 150, Tigard, Oregon 97224. Representing the applicant and property owner, Chuck Knockfossil. He's owned this property for quite some time, and as Lori stated during her staff report, he was the one involved with the partition that's been done and the dedication of the right-of-way. We've been working on this project for quite some time and coordinating with the city and with Rich Brown from the HOA of Dutch Canyon 1 is here. We've been working with them primarily on the stormwater issue. As Lori said during her presentation, it's been an ongoing issue, and once we've figured that out or got that information, we made the commitment to start working to figure out how to make the win-win that Lori talked about. I would add one more win, and I think the public's in there too. So it's not just the applicant and the HOA, but it's also the public in this case because of the ongoing issue. that this isn't functioning exactly right. So without going into the details of it, because that's all inside of our application, what we're proposing to do, and it's captured in the conditions of approval and it's captured in the staff report, is to go in and retrofit that, bring it up to standards, particularly where the outfalls are coming into it, go to the middle of it, take the soil and the deposition of soil and material, get that off and get exposed down to the actual gravel. There's a 10 to 15 foot gravel layer in there that infiltrates at close to triple digits per hour. And so it's going to take the water. It's just right now there's like a cap that's been created over the top of it. So this project is willing to accept the condition, and we have been working with Rich. He's been nothing but helpful, and Ray and others on the HOA. I've been working with the HOA management companies of both the Dutch Canyon 1 as well as the Dutch Canyon 2-3 combined over the past months. And so we've been in full coordination with them, and we're continuing to do that. I had a call with Rich earlier this week. I talked to them several weeks ago. They are in the process of updating and revising their HOA CCNRs. So the timing is right for us as this project moves forward in the coming months, because we still have engineering and, platting and those things to go, that we will work and continue working with the HOA to get this integration done so that it does result in easier management in the future for the maintenance of the facility after the retrofitting and upgrading is completed. So in a nutshell, that was the issue on this. Everything else, as I think Lori did a very good job on, both in writing and tonight, it's all we tried to comply with everything that we could find. And I think that the staff report does a good job of documenting that we did that. We also reviewed the conditions, as Lori noted. We find those all acceptable, including the storm retrofitting. We did provide the alternative of the storm if for whatever reason this HOA documentation effort doesn't result in positive, then the alternative is there to lose a lot in response to the public comment. There would not be a lot 33 in that alternative. And then it would be at that low spot as Lori described. So we accept the conditions. We would ask for your support on that. And then the public comment side, particularly with regards to the white pine trees, I think they are. I looked again, and if you look at the existing condition sheet on our plan set, which is the second sheet in the set, you can see the trees that the McNeils are talking about. And I looked at them tonight when I was coming in here. They are, for the most part, that sheet number, existing condition sheet and reality are the same. I think the trees are primarily located on their property. They are very close to the property line, but it looks like they're primarily on their property. As Lori noted, there's going to be a 20-foot setback on those lots because that'll be rear yards on those lots that are along that line. There's no grading proposed in that area. So trees, although removal of those trees are sometimes regulated by government, the actual coordination between property owners has to occur, and they have to talk to each other when the trees are located on the line like that. So we will be talking to them, to the McNeils. I mean, not me personally, but whoever is doing this work as this project moves forward, they'll need to talk to them about two things: the actual trees themselves to make sure that everything's fine with regards to the construction, and then any fencing that goes up, whether it's put in by the people that'll do the building or if it's put in by the future property owners, they'll have to talk to each other, because putting the fence right on the property line is going to affect, I'm not even sure you could physically do that right now because the trees look like some of the trunks are on the line. So there'll have to be property owner conversations. And I know as a group, if we're involved with all of this moving forward, of course, not the home building, but the final engineering, we'll be talking to them. We've demonstrated that we'll work with others. I've been working on this one for months and months here. So I think we have a good project. I think we have something that's attempting to achieve something outside the box, which is nice for once. And so if you guys have questions of me, I'll see if I can answer them. We just ask for your support so we can continue the journey to make this become real.
Any commissioners have any questions for the applicant at this time? Go ahead.
Oh, I can hear you because we're looking at each other.
I don't think it's on.
There you go.
You could, Bruce's is up there.
Swap
Here you go.
right now.
Oh, there. Very good. You're gonna share. Liz.
We'll share the mic.
There you go.
There you go.
Hello, thank you for coming.
Yes, good evening.
So thank you for explaining with respect to the fir trees. I had some questions, but since you spoke, you've answered my questions. I did have a question with respect to fencing. I understand we don't have code requirements, but I'm curious to know if the project would consider, with the exception of where the fir trees line, because I understand you have to be very careful in terms of where you build and develop close to large trees. But on the Holzheimer property, would there be consideration, would you give consideration to putting up a fence line against the Holzheimer property?
Definitely give consideration to it. The unique part of this one is that Chuck has owned this land for a long time and he's not the builder. And so I would I would accept something that says strongly encourage, because whoever ultimately does become the builder would see that language and do it. In reality, most people that are in this, in anything to do with home building, build fences.
Right.
And so it usually doesn't, it usually does occur. It's not a case of it not occurring, especially because there's a lot of those lots that are rear yards too.
Right.
And so I'm only reluctant to and can put it as a condition simply because I don't know who's going to be doing it. But for all the reasons I just said, if you want to put strongly encourage fencing along that line to satisfy that public comment, I'm all for that. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. You answered my questions with respect to HOA. I'm glad to hear that there's good conversation and dialogue going on. That's wonderful. Sounds like it sounds for the entire community having the retrofitting complete would benefit all. Just a point of clarification, if you may indulge me, if they move forward with the retrofitting, that will also help the McNeil property as well.
No question, because the McNeil property is, let's just say, downstream from when the system doesn't function correctly. So that water that's coming south out of that existing facility is going right through the intersection of Callahan and Old Portland, and it's coming south. So yes, it's gonna specifically address that, because with the amount of infiltration that's going to occur there, I don't expect there to be any issues. There's going to be, because we also, we haven't done the final engineering of it, but when we retrofit and take the soil cap off, whatever length that we leave open will be the size. So we can oversize that a little bit and let even more, have the capability to put even more water into the ground in the case that there's some super event, because the length of that soil cap is so long. That water comes in, it can still get treated, and it still will. Then it'll hit those little weirs that we're going to put in, and it'll go to the soil, to the cap of gravel. It'll be gone, and you won't see it going out to the road anymore, because right now it's kind of like it's can't get in, and so it's going to get in.
That would be wonderful. One last question, if I may.
Sure,
Go for it.
I have a question regarding the traffic study, and this would probably be a question posed for you as well as for staff. I read through the traffic study and noticed that the traffic study is dated on like 2019 and 2020. Given the fact that our community, our entire world has been in a shutdown capacity, has there been some consideration into the fact that when this traffic study was complete, that the majority of people were not on the roads? And so were we able to address the fact that this is an unusual time for that traffic study? So do we feel confident that we have an accurate depiction of what these additional cars these 33 units will bring to the community?
I'd say that's a good question. I'm just going to look up when you mentioned 2019 and 2020. The pandemic hit us in spring of 2020. So if those traffic numbers came from 2019 and early 2020, yeah, we've got good numbers, because those are the numbers pre-pandemic, I think is your point, right?
Yeah, let me just jump in for a second, if I may. Just turn to page 119 in your packet. under existing conditions, and there's a paragraph that addresses change in analysis due to the pandemic.
Yeah. This is
Oh, thank
kind
you.
of how it's had to be addressed during COVID.
It's not uncommon for traffic engineers to account for changes in traffic. This is one, obviously one of those. So,
Sort of towards the middle there.
second.
Thank you. This is a lot of information to take
Yes,
in,
it
so
is.
sometimes I miss things.
No, that was a good, it's a very good question.
It's something we definitely look at.
question.
Thank you, staff, for being so thorough.
Sure, yeah. And you do, and the traffic engineer is actually on the line as well, in case there were questions he needed to address.
He put the actual dates in here too.
It was accounted for, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of clarification questions. Did you say that, that you didn't know who the builder were gonna be? That,
Yeah, at this
correct?
time, we're working with the property owner, so
Right.
yeah, we don't know who the builder is.
would the owner know who the builders are?
Not at this
Just at
time,
this time?
because until, I mean, one, we were working on this storm thing for a while, and then two, until there's a land use approval, there really isn't the project. There's really been no interest on the owner's part to do anything about ownership or excuse me, builders or anything else, because it's been a while. I mean, he's owned the land for a long time, but it's been a while to get to this point.
Right. So is this, I guess, question to the staff, is this the first time it's been presented to the commission?
Oh, yeah.
Sven?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
typically what will happen is until entitlements are issued, so until land use approval is issued, um, you know, you're not going to have a developer who's wanting to purchase this. So likely this would then be sold with the entitlements in place. And then at that point, then we would know who the builder was. So
This is site preparation, basically.
Well, there's various stages of where the land gets sort of reevaluated. It has different values. So non-entitled land would have a certain value. Then entitled land has another value, it's higher. And then if the lots were platted and the subdivision were completed with finished lots, it would have a higher value again. So it can be sold at these different stages. The owner just felt like they wanted to take it through this entitlement phase and then decide what to do with it. So
I see,
that's kind of why, so there's different approaches.
I see. So there's no estimated time of building this?
Well, these
lot?
land use approvals do expire. I'll let Lori address that.
yeah, and so the approval is for 1 year from the notice of decision. There is a 1-year extension that can be granted very easily. They just need to request it within that 1 year. And so once this gets approved, my assumption would be that then they would move, to get to that next step, which is either finding someone to build it out, retaining ownership or selling. I don't know.
I agree with all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that because of the 1-year approval and the 1-year extension, it will move towards engineering.
Yep.
In the not too distant future. Exactly when, I don't know. It's not my decision. So, but I agree with everything that they just said. I think that's all accurate. I mean, sometimes property owners go through the step of platting it and
Yeah.
building out the improvements, and their choice.
I believe some of those past developments that they're nearby did the same thing.
Yes.
They went through the whole process very similarly, and they sold to a developer, and then the developer came in and made some changes to it. So I would agree strongly that in the language, as you suggested, if you wanted something like fencing or something like that, a strong recommendation or whatever it might be included, because each developer is new, comes into the picture. They need to know that, or they won't do it.
Right. And these conditions of approval are any step of this process. The conditions of approval are the guide. So if you put strongly encourage for fencing, for example, everybody sees that.
Thank you.
Lori,
Yes.
would this project be coming back before the planning commission at any point?
No. unless they tried to make a major modification to the conditions or to the approval.
I would just add, that's why we put the alternative of the storm,
Correct.
because we did not want to have to come back and bother you guys with it if it didn't work out for whatever reason.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question for staff, just for reference. This is phase 4. Were phase 1 through 3 built by the same developer? The 3 phases, do we know?
The first 3, well, I'm not familiar with phase 1. I believe it was D.R. Horton.
Liz,
Although
no.
they did sell some lots. I don't know if they bought them back.
Sounds like they were all D.R.
Right.
Horton.
Yeah.
Liz is shaking her head. Yes. She works with them once it gets past this.
Thank you, just curious.
Yeah.
Did we answer all your questions?
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
And next up in our order of things is the staff response. Do you have any additional response to make?
I guess I'm just thinking about the comment about including a condition about, the fencing. Because it's not tied to a criteria, I don't know that it's appropriate to include it as a condition of approval. I think what we could do is revise the staff report to state that based on, to add it as additional findings, basically. And more than likely, it's something I would sort of place under the public and private agencies and public notice as a third bullet point right above the findings of fact, to just state that, during the course of the hearing tonight, that the Planning Commission wanted to strongly recommend the provision of fencing around the perimeter of the subdivision in response to the 2 public comments that were submitted. This is something we've done in the past where we've made that comment, but again, it's not tied to criteria. There have been times where we haven't actually amended the staff report, but we can go back and find the minutes and point to that and show it to the developer and say, this was the Planning Commission's understanding. The applicant did agree to it at the time. But again, not tied to a criteria. And so it wasn't appropriate for it to fall within the conditions. So that's how it's been handled in the past. And in that instance, I forget which development that was, but they did actually follow through with that because we were able to point to that very strong understanding.
The other option would be if the developer, the end user were going to be here, then there could be an agreement between the property owner and the end user during this meeting, and they could verbally agree to some terms. That's happened before, but we don't know who the developer will be, so.
I will say that the first 3 phases, they did put in fencing. It's quite a common amenity in new subdivisions. It's rather expected.
I believe if D.R. Horton has it as a part of their policy, they require fencing within so many days of the sale, within 180 days or something like that. All the property has to be completely fenced. I don't know how the other builders approach that, but that was the case with D.R. Horton.
Thank you.
Question for Lori.
Sure.
What's your feelings about the traffic count? Fact that there was COVID at the time. Maybe we're not getting,
Again,
concern.
no, because they did adjust for it. And so that's really the only way that they're able to address it at this time. I've seen it come up that way in other traffic counts as well to adjust for that. So
Okay.
I'm comfortable with what they're showing.
So you were
Thank you.
Hey, Lori, one
Yeah.
question following that question. How long are those studies valid for?
The traffic studies, I do not have an answer to that. Do you?
Well, if the background conditions change, that would be a reason to add some background trips, but for the proposed project, it's not changing. Those numbers would be valid for, for the life of the project essentially. Because there's no more lots being proposed.
As a follow along to that, Chris, so for the 2 years, 1 year plus the extension, 2 years.
Correct.
So it would be valid for 2 years. And if it's not sold, then a new traffic study would need to be completed at that time in order to move forward.
Correct. They would have to
Okay.
apply for a new subdivision application if this approval expired with
Got
updated studies.
Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you.
Huh?
Any other questions for staff? Okay, great. Then I'm going to close the hearing and we will now take up the matter for deliberations. I'll go ahead and start. I do like the idea of including a mention of the fencing conversation. And I agree that, where you're looking at putting it in the staff report makes sense that it wouldn't fit in the conditions of approval.
Okay, thank you. And so do you want me to read kind of what I was thinking of including, just so you're aware? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, and so I was thinking of wording, the planning commission strongly encourages the provision of fencing along the perimeter of the subdivision in response to the 2 public comments submitted by the Holzheimers and McNeils.
I think that sounds perfect to me.
Okay, so, and again, after that last bullet point and just directly above findings of fact on page 23.
Yeah.
And so the reference would then be to the revised staff report, which would be dated the 26th.
Any comments?
My only comments are that I think a lot of the issues look like they've been addressed. Stormwater, concerned about that. Looks like they've had good conversations and they can move forward with that. Lot 33, situation. And that conditions of approval, there is no error, everybody's on the same page. Maybe fencing. Everything else seems to meet the criteria so far that staff has shown and been approved. As long as we have the conditions of approval to go along to make that happen, I think we're moving along fine.
I appreciate you putting the strong recommendation
Yeah.
into the staff findings. If it is the same builder, I'm sure they'll do the fencing as well, but I think it's a good thing for us to just protect our neighbors as well, just so there's privacy on both ends. So I appreciate adding that. Other than that, this looks pretty straightforward with respect to the report and the findings. So thank you, Lori, for putting together a very comprehensive report for us. That was very easy to follow, even though I missed some things. But I think I just like to make a note for all of us, is something we're going to have to consider as our community is growing and these once farmlands continue to be sold and developed, the traffic is going to continue to increase. So I can definitely appreciate the concerns of the individuals who came forward about the traffic. So it'll just be something for us as a commission to keep our eye on as this happens.
I'm good.
I agree with everything that's been said, and appreciate you, staff putting that in there.
Rita, press *6 if you have any comments to add. Looks like
Good.
She doesn't
Sounds-
have any additional
Oh,
comments.
there she is.
There she is.
Hear you.
Everything sounds good to me.
Excellent.
Everything. My concerns have been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for myself, I just want to say I'm always excited when an applicant is working with adjacent property owners and helping to make things better for their neighbors and for the community as well as for themselves. So thank you for doing that. You know, all parties involved. I think that's a wonderful thing for a community to be able to do. Is there any more deliberation? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve docket number SB 1-20 with the additional
Comment.
about the fence.
Okay.
Um,
Is that clear enough for you? Okay, great. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to approve docket SB 1-20. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Hearing. Thank you, Rita.
Thanks.
And with that, it passes. Congratulations. We look forward to the storm drain getting improved. Okay.
Oh, nice.
I am a planner myself, and I know the excitement of actually going to an evening meeting. Yeah. Then we move on to communications. So first is the calendar check. And August, it looks like there is a city council executive session tomorrow morning at 8. And Saturday, we have the Scappoose Farmers Market from 9 to 2.
Mask up, people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then we move into September, and September 4th, Saturday, we have the Farmers Market from 9 to 2, mask up. Closed on Labor Day. On Tuesday, there is a city council work session at 6, followed by a council meeting at 7. Is there a planning commission?
There will not be planning commission in September just because of the way the applications are falling. I do expect one October 14th and 28th.
You know what that might be.
I do know. October 14th would be Omic's second building. October 28th, it will likely be another subdivision application, 9 lots.
Moving on, the 11th, the farmer's market, 9 to 2. Thursday, the 16th, the Economic Development Committee meets at noon. Is that here in Chambers?
Yeah.
And then the Parks and Rec Committee meets at 6 p.m., again in Chambers?
Yeah.
All right. On Saturday, the 18th, we have a suicide prevention walk starting at Heritage Park at 7 a.m. And the farmer's market, again, running 9 to 2.
I want to say that, is that through the fire or the police department? Police department event.
I believe that's right.
I think they do that every year.
Monday, the 20th, the city council has a work session at 6:30 and council meeting at 7. And finally, on September 25th, we have the Scappoose Farmers Market from 9 to 2. Is that the last day of the market for this year?
That would be the last.
Okay.
I do wonder though, on that suicide walk, there's so many of these because of COVID going up, whether or not they'll still do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can always cancel something
Yeah.
like that at the last minute.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's something that would be on the city calendar, and if something changed, so
Mm-hmm.
look at the city calendar to see if it's still happening or if it's been
Correct.
modified.
Yeah,
I do know that in Portland, I usually participate in the ones in Portland. They have suspended theirs, I think, again.
oh, okay, okay.
And
Does
there's good
anybody-
reason for it, because in Portland, you've got thousands of people all jammed in the plaza there at the Coliseum. And so I don't want that.
For the one here in Scappoose, does anybody know the length of that? Is it like a 5K or a 10K or?
It's not very far. You walk from about here, walk down to about the high school and walk back, and that's about it.
Oh, okay.
I've walked it myself.
Good.
Okay. Calendar check being done, we move to commissioner comments. Do any commissioner have any comments they'd like to make for the good of the order?
Good work, staff. Good job.
Thank you.
Question. When these traffic studies are done, not relating to this, but in
Sure.
general, traffic accidents and traffic violations considered in them?
Well, I don't know about traffic violations. Traffic accidents are definitely considered. They look at crashes, basically.
Great, thank you.
And there's, all of that's documented in the traffic study. Each occurrence
Yeah.
is detailed.
It'll document whether there was an injury,
The type of injury, the
Uh,
classification.
The type of
rear
accident.
end. Yeah.
And that's readily available on the Scappoose?
No,
website,
it's
or
through,
just
it's
It's in-
through
it's in-
ODOT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they aggregate it. I mean, we collect some of the data from our facilities, and then I think it all gets aggregated to ODOT. And then those, that's, a lot of that criteria, that data is used as part of the criteria for intersection improvements.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you speak into a mic, please?
Thank you for a thorough document.
You're
It
welcome.
was much appreciated.
I concur with that comment, and it's a lot of homework to look over. I only can imagine developing the documentation, so great job.
Thank you.
And I'm going to also add, great job to the staff. Makes it a pleasure to serve on the council when staff's got it together.
Great. Yeah. Great. The applicant was very good to work with.
Okay, any staff comments?
So I have a note from Liz. The Hood to Coast is this weekend, so please be aware of the traffic. As you know, they come through town and it can get quite congested. Let's see, I did already mention the next planning commission meetings I do expect to in October, OMIC and then that other subdivision. I don't know if you had any things you wanted to state. You'll see that the Peace Candle apartment project is under construction now. So they're getting started on that. Do you have anything?
We've got projects that we're going through plan review right now. So, and ones that you've already approved, and we hope to get them going this fall.
Those would be,
Again, has an 8-plex on Maple Street, just north of the middle school. And then there's the cottage housing.
Maple Street Cottage
It's
Housing.
at the end of, they'll actually extend that.
Oh.
And that's
12 lots.
12 lots. We hope to get them on here very soon too. Just waiting, we're waiting on some minor revisions that are.
So the one on First Street over on the west side.
Oh,
Their approval expired.
Sharp apartment.
Yeah, I thought by now it should have.
It did, unfortunately.
So they have to go through the whole thing again if they want to do it.
Yeah.
I think that one was the result of, COVID was responsible for some of that occurring just because the product cost went crazy.
Yeah.
And I think lumber prices like tripled or.
It was a very custom design, custom building, and
That was the one behind the fire station?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well,
it's
kind
not
of
behind it, but
Southwest, yeah.
Okay.
across from the credit
from
union.
On Point Credit Union. Yep.
Kind of comment on the COVID things were, it expired. Is there something in the regulations due to pandemic, some of their,
No,
Their
because it was
application.
even before that, really, because so it had was getting close to expiration. They did request a 1-year extension, and then they still couldn't. So uh, we thought creatively about how to address that, but it was too far
I
gone.
mean, we offered to let them start the project because that really.
Start the
it-
grading,
And it goes into a construction mode and then the land use, they kind of locks in the land use, but they didn't even want to risk going into construction because they didn't think they could finish the project.
No.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess that's all I have.
Okay.
We're busy. East Airport's a busy project for us. We're trying to get them in construction. That's probably the bigger.
Phases 3 and 4.
A lot of moving parts. We're trying to wrap up portions of phase 1 and 2. The well is online, kind of production test mode. We have some operational things to work through there. We're trying to determine how much water it provides to our system. There's a 90-day test phase where we're trying to officially start here soon. There's a sewer pump station we're trying to get up and running. Actually, there's 2. There's another one at OMIC we're trying to get up and running. Then OMIC is also supposed to start the remodel of their site,
Existing, their
building.
existing building, yeah.
so they can have more than 15 people. They finally got funding, so it's supposed to move. It's supposed to usually start in November. I've heard different dates, but I think November is going to stick, probably.
Crabhorn Park property.
So
What's the
apartments.
story of,
The park at the
the designated area that they want?
yeah, I think they're
for?
the ad hoc committee that was formed to provide a recommendation to council. I want to say that they are going to present to council their recommendation in September. I think the second meeting in September. I don't know what that recommendation is yet, but that's not going to get built unless the city receives a grant. So depending on when the grant's applied for and if it's granted, that still would come to the planning commission for approval of site development review for a park. But we don't know when that would be.
About the pool.
I think that's officially off the table.
I think it is. That's right.
Okay, yeah, I thought I
More
had
money.
heard
Well,
that.
we got a piece of property right across from a credit union, it's just big enough to pool in there.
Problem with that is it's mostly in the floodplain. You don't want a pool in the floodplain.
I think your best shot at having a pool is
Already
to
wet.
buy one at Fred Meyer's and put it up in your.
Unless you want to donate a couple of $1 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say every year
Yeah.
for operation.
Every time somebody sees a piece of property in this town, they think there's a place to put a pool. It's really funny.
And Lori or staff, remember last time you brought up the fact that when do we get together and kind of come up with the overall plan and
Yes.
the projection and things
Yeah.
like that? I can't recall.
The timeline for that.
Right.
Yeah. So now that Isaac is done with his committee work, he will come back to working in my department, and I did review the RFP for that 50-year plan recently. We'll circulate it again, and I would expect that RFP would be released in the next month. So that would be something that would kick off this fall. I think the first stage would be like a community outreach and kind of a visioning process. And then at the same time, we would start launching into the update to the housing needs analysis and the completion of a new economic opportunities analysis. Those two pieces need to come like kind of first. I did apply for a DLCD grant to fund that housing needs analysis update. The state did receive quite a bit of funding from the legislature this year, so I think we're going to be funded for that, which would be great. So I should hear something on that grant beginning of September. So it'd be kind of nice to hear that before we release the RFP, because that is a component of the RFP, so we can just pull that piece out. So it's coming.
When you say community, would that be like surveying the community of what they're needing or want in their community? Is that
So
what-
I would have the consultants put together, out of my language, a very robust outreach to the community. And I would assume that would include some open houses and some surveys. The time might align really nicely to include it like at the annual town meeting as well. So yeah, I'm sure that there would be some surveying involved with that.
I don't know, just been hearing that from the community, and I was like, I'm not sure because I'm part of this mission now that I'm, paying attention, but it seems like it'd be coming up a lot, so.
Yes. Yep. That.
Okay, any last comments from anybody? All right, then, I am going to adjourn the meeting here at 8:16. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They hit that